The first time I heard it, I was halfway between sleep and waking, just that delicate edge where dreams start to dissolve and the real world begins to press back in. "Sweetheart, come here." It was my mother's voice, gentle, familiar, tinged with that same warmth she used to use when waking me up for school as a kid. For a moment, I smiled. Then I remembered. She's been dead for 5 years. I sat bolt upright in bed, heart racing. The apartment was dark except for the soft blue glow of the street lamp bleeding in through the blinds. My ears strained for another sound. Nothing. Just the distant hum of traffic and the occasional creak of settling pipes. I told myself I must have been dreaming. It was the only thing that made sense. I'd been under a lot of stress lately. New job, bills piling up, nights spent battling the silence that always seemed to get heavier around 3 a.m. still. It felt real. Too real. I got up and checked the hallway. Bathroom, kitchen, front door. All quiet, locked. Nothing out of place. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Like the apartment was no longer entirely mine. The next morning felt like walking through a fog made of cotton and dread. Everything looked the same. My small kitchen still smelled like burnt toast and cheap coffee. The light over the sink still flickered when I turned it on. But nothing felt the same. Her voice had followed me into my dreams. Not in a comforting way. Not the way I used to remember it, when I cried myself to sleep those first nights after she died. This voice was different. There was something brittle underneath the softness, something cracked. She had said, "Sweetheart, come here." 3 words. That was all. But the tone didn't match the woman who used to hum lullabies while brushing my hair, or the one who used to say, "I love you" more after tucking me in. This voice sounded closer, like it knew me too well, like it had been watching me. I shook it off, tried to. The coffee machine wheezed out a bitter brew as I sat at the kitchen table, blinking into the glow of my laptop screen. Work emails, deadlines, client notes, but I couldn't focus. Her voice echoed behind every word I read. I stared at one sentence for 15 minutes before realizing I hadn't processed a thing. By mid-afternoon, I gave up. I closed the laptop, lay on the couch, and stared at the ceiling. What bothered me the most wasn't the voice. It was the part of me, some small, hidden, trembling part, that wanted to believe it was really her. I dug through my phone, old voicemails, photos, videos, anything. Eventually I found it. A birthday message from 6 years ago. She was laughing as she sang off-key into the receiver. "Happy birthday to you, even though you're probably out with your friends and ignoring your poor old mother." God, I missed her. I played it again and again. And then I realized something chilling. Her voice was higher, lighter, brighter. The voice I'd heard 2 nights ago, it was deeper, slower, as if something was imitating her but couldn't quite get the rhythm right. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid. Grief plays tricks. Stress plays tricks. The brain is a strange, cruel place sometimes. I was still telling myself that when I went to bed. But then came the 3rd night. And this time I didn't just hear her, I saw something. It was late, past 2:30 a.m., when I jolted awake. At first I didn't know why. No dreams I could remember. No sound, just a thick silence pressing against the room, like a weight. Then I heard it. "Baby, it's okay. I'm here now." The voice came from the hallway, clear as a bell. Soft, loving, familiar. So familiar that for a split second I felt warmth rush through my chest. My breath caught, my muscles loosened. and I almost got out of bed. Almost. But something in the tone made me stop. It was too calm, too smooth, like someone reading a line from a script they didn't understand. I didn't move. I couldn't. My whole body went stiff, like I'd been pinned to the mattress by some invisible force. I stared at the doorway. The hallway beyond was dark, but not entirely. The moonlight through the front windows gave the corridor just enough glow to outline shapes. And that's when I saw it. A shadow. Tall, still, standing just at the threshold where the hallway met my bedroom. No movement, no breathing, just presence. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up, my throat tightened. My pulse thudded loud in my ears. It was shaped like a person. But it wasn't right. The shoulders were too square. The head tilted just slightly, as if studying me. Its outline shimmered in a way that reminded me of heat waves over asphalt, as if the air around it was bending. I don't know how long I stared. Could have been 30 seconds, could have been 10 minutes. And then, gone. Just like that. No footsteps, no sound. Shadow disappeared. I didn't sleep again that night. I turned every light on in the apartment, sat on the floor with my back against the bed, and a kitchen knife clutched in my hand, heart pounding against my ribs. At 3:07 a.m., I worked up the nerve to get up and walk down the hallway. There was nothing there, just stillness, the kind that feels too still, like the house is holding its breath. But there was one thing out of place. The photo, a framed picture of Mom and me, taken in our old backyard the summer before she died. It had been sitting on the hallway shelf for years. Now, it was face down. I didn't remember touching it. I didn't even remember the last time I dusted it. I flipped it back over, and for a second, just a second, I thought her face looked different. Not drastically, just off. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her pupils looked slightly larger. She wasn't looking at the camera anymore. She was looking at me. The next day felt like I was moving through someone else's life. I called in sick to work with a shaky voice and a lie about food poisoning. Even that short call exhausted me. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked pale, almost sickly. My eyes were bloodshot, and my skin had the sallow hue of someone who hadn't slept well in days. Because I hadn't. The apartment felt tighter, smaller, like the walls were leaning in, listening. I couldn't stop thinking about the voice and that shadow, the way it stood there, just watching me. The way it hadn't moved, that's what haunted me the most. It knew it didn't have to chase me. It just waited. That evening, I made a decision. I needed answers, even if I didn't know the questions yet. I started with my mom's old things. I hadn't touched the box in years. It sat in the back of my closet, under some old blankets, and a suitcase I never used. A simple cardboard box labeled Mom in Sharpie. I hesitated before opening it. My fingers trembled as I peeled back the tape. Inside were pieces of a life long gone, an old perfume bottle, nearly empty but still fragrant with that powdery floral scent I could never name. Her diary, a stack of birthday cards I'd made her in grade school, a cassette tape labeled Don't Erase. I frowned. There was no cassette player in the apartment, not anymore. But the diary, that was something. The first few pages were normal, lists of groceries, little notes about her day, short prayers. But further in, the entries grew erratic. May 17th, 2016. The mirror in the hallway is wrong. I keep catching something in it that isn't there when I turn around. I think I'm just tired. June 2nd, 2016. I heard something last night, my own voice, but I wasn't speaking. June 13th, 2016. I saw myself in the kitchen window reflection, but I was in the living room. That made me stop. A cold sweat formed on my neck. I flipped forward. June 22nd, 2016. It waits behind glass. Any glass. I think it can only move when you're not looking at it directly. I don't know what it wants, but I know it wears my face. I saw it smile at me. My throat went dry. Had she been seeing the same thing? It couldn't be coincidence. The voice, the reflection that looked wrong, the shadow in the hallway. The photo turned face down. Something had been haunting her, just like it was haunting me. But why now? Why 5 years after her death? I stared at the diary for a long time before noticing something else. The final page had been torn out. Not cleanly either. The ragged edge suggested it had been ripped, maybe in panic. I searched the box, the floor, even the closet. Nothing. That missing page was gone. Night fell again, and a quiet dread settled over me. I kept wondering if there was a rational explanation for everything I'd seen. Sleep deprivation, grief, loneliness. But deep down, I knew. Those were just excuses. Because something was here. Something was using my mother's voice. And now it was closer. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like something was watching me. Not from the corner of the room, not from the hallway, but from inside the house. The kind of presence that didn't need footsteps or shadows to announce itself. It was just there. In the silence between thoughts, in the stillness of the air. Around 2:13 a.m., the temperature dropped. I remember the exact time because I was staring at the clock, hoping it would move faster. That's when I heard it again. "Sweetheart?" It came from the kitchen, my mother's voice. Soft, soothing, familiar in a way that made my chest ache. But there was something else underneath it now. Something strained. A dragging distortion, like an old cassette tape warping at the edges. I got up, not because I was brave, but because not getting up somehow felt worse. The kitchen light was off. I reached for the switch. It didn't work. The entire room was cloaked in that bluish darkness that only exists late at night, when the moon slips behind clouds. I stepped in slowly, scanning every inch. The refrigerator hummed, the faucet dripped. Then, the cupboard door creaked open by itself. Not flung open, not slammed, just slow, deliberate movement, as if inviting me to look inside. I stood frozen. And then the voice came again, from directly behind me this time. "I made your favorite. Come eat." I turned so fast I nearly fell backward. No one was there. The doorway was empty. The hall behind me stretched silently, undisturbed. But now the smell hit me. Tomato soup with garlic bread. My mom used to make that for me when I was sick. The exact scent, down to the brand of seasoning she swore by. The problem was, I hadn't had tomato soup in years. I didn't even have any in the house. Yet when I turned back to the kitchen table, there it was. A bowl, steam rising, spoon neatly placed beside it, and a folded napkin, embroidered with my initials in thread. The kind my mother used to sew. I backed away, all the way to my room. I shut the door, locked it, shoved a chair under the knob, and just stood there in the dark, heart racing so hard I thought I'd pass out. But the moment I looked towards the mirror across the room, I froze. Because in the reflection, I wasn't alone. There was someone standing behind me. I spun around instantly, ready to scream, to swing, to run, but no one was there. The room was empty, quiet. My breath was ragged in the stillness, echoing louder than it should have. Yet in the mirror, the figure was still standing behind me. It hadn't moved. It looked like my mother, or something trying very hard to look like her. Her hair, her posture, even the familiar cardigan she used to wear on rainy days. But her face was all wrong, soft features twisted subtly out of place. Too symmetrical, too still. And her smile was motionless, like it had been painted on. I wanted to look away, to shatter the mirror, to run from whatever was happening. But I couldn't. I was rooted to the spot, eyes locked on the glass. And slowly, she lifted her hand in the reflection and pressed her index finger to her lips. Shh. I couldn't move. A soft whisper followed, so close it brushed against my ear, though there was no one beside me. She doesn't like it when you ask questions. I lunged forward and pulled the sheet off the mirror, then yanked it off the wall entirely and shoved it into the hallway. It crashed face down with a dull thud. My hands were shaking, my knees weak. What was happening to me? Was I dreaming? Had grief finally cracked something open inside my mind? But then came a knock, not at the front door, at my bedroom window. Tap, tap, tap. 3 slow, patient raps, just like the ones my mom used to make when she came to check if I was still awake after bedtime. I live on the 2nd floor. I didn't go to the window. I didn't need to. Because a voice floated through the glass, light and sing-song. Don't forget to brush your teeth, baby. I screamed. I screamed so loud the neighbors banged on the wall. But I didn't care. Because I knew whatever was outside that window wasn't my mother. And it wanted in. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on my bed, back pressed to the headboard. Every light in my apartment turned on. The window stayed untouched. Curtains drawn, blinds down, latch tight. But still, every so often, I'd hear it. The knock, tap, tap, tap. Always 3 times. Always slow, always patient. Like it knew I was inside. Like it was waiting. By morning, I looked like hell. Eyes sunken, skin pale, nerves raw. I called into work, made up some excuse about food poisoning. I needed answers. I needed to know what the hell was happening, so I did what any sleep-deprived, terrified person might do. I started digging. I began with the apartment. I'd only been living there for 6 months, but suddenly, I wanted to know everything. I called the landlord, asked if anyone had lived here before me who'd, well, died. He got cagey. Why would you ask that? He said. I pushed. I told him weird things had been happening. No details, just enough to put him on edge. After a long pause, he finally admitted something. Last tenant was a woman, middle-aged, lived alone. She stopped paying rent, and when we finally sent someone in, she was gone. Place was locked from the inside. No signs of struggle. But all her stuff was still here, like she just walked out. Left dinner on the table. Never came back. Her name, I asked. Claire Grayson. I wrote it down and hung up. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I looked her up online. Nothing on social media, nothing recent. But I found an old obituary for someone with the same name. It wasn't her. Still, I kept digging. Through forums, property records, even Reddit threads. That's when I found it. A post from 5 years ago, on an old ghost hunting forum. The title, My Mother's Voice is Calling Me, but she's been dead for years. My heart stopped. The post was short. The author didn't give a name, just the username. CGHost33. They described hearing a voice outside their bedroom window. A woman's voice, familiar, loving, wrong. It called their name, told them to come outside, said it missed them. They didn't go. But the voice kept coming back. Then the mirrors started acting strange, reflections smiling when they weren't, faces behind them, whispers in the dark. Eventually they left. That was the last post. The date, exactly 5 years ago, to the day. Claire Grayson, this had happened before. This thing, it had used her mother's voice. But now, it was using mine. Had to see the apartment through her eyes. If Claire Grayson had lived here, if she had experienced the same nightmare I was living through, maybe she'd left something behind, some clue, a warning, a way out. So I started searching, not just casually, obsessively. I tore through every drawer, every cabinet, moved the refrigerator, pulled up the vent covers, removed every picture frame from the wall, even the ones I had hung. Nothing. Until I checked the closet in the bedroom, the one I rarely opened. I pulled the shelf away from the back wall, and there it was. A thin crack in the plaster, barely visible unless you were looking for it. I pried it open with a screwdriver, revealing a hollow space behind the drywall. Inside there was a shoebox. My hands trembled as I lifted it out. It was old, edges warped, lid soft from moisture. Faint cursive writing on top read, "For the next tenant." I opened it. Inside were photos, notes, a cassette tape, a small pocket mirror, and at the very bottom, a letter. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. If you're reading this, then it's already found you. I don't know what it is, but it looks like the people we love. It sounds like them. It waits until we're weakest, until we miss them enough to believe. Then it comes inside. My mother died in 2009. In 2017, I started hearing her voice. Whatever this thing is, it needs your attention. It feeds on it. The more you listen, the more real it becomes. Don't talk to it. Don't respond. Don't let it in. And never, ever trust what you see in the mirror. CG. I sat there, the letter clutched in my hands, heart thudding like it wanted to escape my chest. She'd seen it too. She'd heard the voice. She'd warned me, and whoever might come after me. This wasn't new. This wasn't a haunting. This was a pattern. The cassette tape had a small white label that read, "Play in the dark." I didn't want to, but part of me knew I had to. That night, I waited until the sun set. Then I turned off every light, sat on the floor, alone, and pressed play. At first, static. Then a woman's voice, soft, barely above a whisper. Not Claire, not my mom, someone else. You've let it in already, haven't you? It knows your name now. It knows your grief. You've looked for comfort, and it has offered itself. But it never gives. It only takes. There's only one way to end it. Silence. Then a scraping sound, like something being dragged across wood. Then the voice again. "Don't let it wear your skin." Click. The tape ended, but something inside me shifted. A sickening realization. It didn't want to haunt me. It wanted to replace me. That night, I covered all the mirrors in the apartment. I didn't care how paranoid it looked. I used old bed sheets, duct tape, cardboard, anything I could find. I even draped a towel over the reflective surface of the microwave door. Every glimpse of myself had started to feel wrong, delayed. Like my reflection was trying to catch up, and when it did, it would smile. Not a warm smile, not recognition, but hunger. Despite the covers, I still felt watched, like the walls had eyes, like every shadow knew my name. Around 2:46 a.m., I woke up to the sound of humming. A lullaby. The same one my mother used to sing to me when I was 5 years old and had the flu. She would sit beside my bed, brushing my hair back, humming softly until I fell asleep. I hadn't heard it in 20 years. And yet, it came from the hallway. I sat up slowly. My bedroom door was slightly open. Beyond it, faint and flickering, was the warm glow of light, as though someone had turned on the lamp in the living room. I should have stayed in bed, but I stood, quiet as I could. I stepped barefoot across the wooden floor, the air thick with that same scent from before. Honeysuckle and something else, something sour. As I reached the hallway, the humming stopped. And then I heard a voice. "Sweetheart? Are you awake?" It sounded so much like her, it almost broke me. But I remembered Claire's letter. Don't talk to it. Don't respond. So I said nothing. Instead, I crept forward, peering around the corner into the living room. The lamp was on, and sitting on the couch, exactly where my mother used to sit when she visited, was her, or something wearing her. She looked younger than I remembered. Her skin too smooth, her eyes too wide, and her smile was wrong. Too many teeth. Too still. She turned her head toward me, slowly, neck cracking. "I made you tea," she said, gesturing to the coffee table. I looked. There was no cup, just a stack of Polaroids, all face down. "Why don't you come sit with me, baby?" My mouth went dry, my chest locked up. But I didn't move. It stood. That was when I saw its legs weren't touching the floor. Its feet hovered an inch above the carpet, as though gravity had forgotten it. I turned and ran, slammed the bedroom door, locked it, pushed the dresser in front of it, sat in the corner with a hammer from the tool drawer clenched in my hand. And then, silence, until the scratching started. Slow, gentle, like nails along the wood of the door. Then came the voice. Not hers. Mine. "I'm tired," it whispered. "I want to come in now." "I'm you, remember? I'm you if you weren't so weak." The doorknob turned once, twice, and then stopped. I waited until dawn before I moved the dresser. When I opened the door, there was nothing there. But the stack of Polaroids was on my kitchen counter, and the top one, it showed me, sitting on the couch, across from a smiling version of my mother. We were both drinking tea. I burned the Polaroids. Every last one. But the smell lingered. Not just of melting plastic and scorched chemicals, but something older. Like burnt hair. Like something inside the images had felt the fire. The next few days were a blur. I stopped going to work. I unplugged my phone, I taped every vent shut, and nailed my bedroom window closed. But none of it mattered. The thing wasn't coming through doors or screens anymore. It was already inside. It didn't need an invitation now. I started catching glimpses of it, even in reflections that weren't mirrors. Spoons, glass surfaces, even puddles. Always behind me, always watching, sometimes smiling, sometimes not. The mirrors I'd covered began to uncover themselves. I'd walk into a room to find the bedsheet on the floor, the tape curling as if peeled by careful hands. One morning I woke up with a shard of mirror on my pillow. It had words scratched into it. "I'm almost done." That night, I dreamed of drowning in a room full of reflections. 1,000 versions of me, all twisted and wrong, all staring with the same hungry grin. One of them, the closest, pressed its hand against the glass and whispered, "Soon you'll stop dreaming." When I woke, I wasn't in my bed. I was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, eyes wide open, smiling. I slammed my fist into the glass. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface. But the reflection didn't change. My hand was bleeding, trembling, but he, the one in the mirror, was calm, composed, still smiling. Then He waved at me and mouthed something I couldn't hear, but I understood it anyway. Almost ready. I stumbled out of the room, wrapping my hand in a towel, my breathing sharp and ragged. I wanted to scream, wanted to break every reflective surface in the apartment. But I knew it wouldn't matter. The damage was already done. Claire's letter said not to let it in. But what if I already had? I stopped sleeping. I didn't even try anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear her voice again. Not just in my head, but in my ears, whispering, humming. Sometimes it was a lullaby she used to sing to me. Sometimes it was just breathing right against my ear. I stopped trusting the apartment. I slept in my car for a night, parked in a supermarket lot under flickering sodium lights. But even there, in that dead hour before dawn, I looked into the rear view and saw someone sitting in the back seat. Me. But not me. He didn't blink, didn't breathe, just smiled. I sold the car the next day for pennies to a junkyard 3 towns over. Took a bus home. But that night, when I went to brush my teeth, I found the rearview mirror from the car lying on my bathroom sink. It had a new word etched into it. Soon, I fell apart after that. Stopped eating, stopped talking. I barely left the apartment. Just sat there, in the center of the living room floor, surrounded by every reflective surface I could find. Shattered, covered, turned backward. I didn't want to see it again. But that only made it mad. The lights started flickering. My phone would buzz at odd hours with voicemails of myself talking. Long, strange messages I couldn't remember leaving. Some of them were conversations, half conversations. I'd be responding to someone. One of them ended with me whispering, "It's done. I'm ready." I don't know what that means. I don't want to know. Then last night, the mirrors came back. Everyone I'd hidden was out in the open again, clean, spotless, and unbroken. Even the ones I'd shattered were somehow whole again. They were everywhere, on the walls, the floor, even the ceiling. I was trapped inside a house made of myself, and all of them were smiling. Except me. I screamed. I screamed so loud I felt something tear in my throat, but none of the reflections mirrored it. They just kept smiling, still and calm like mannequins. One by one, they began to move, not copying me, acting on their own. I backed into a corner, shaking, pleading, crying. And then they all said it, in unison. Let us in. I didn't sleep at all last night. I just sat on the floor, back pressed to the cold wall, facing the largest mirror, an antique thing I inherited from my grandmother. I hadn't looked into it in years, but I couldn't look away now, because my reflection wasn't blinking. It stood when I sat, tilted its head when I stayed still. Sometimes it would mouth words I wasn't saying, words like, "You're wasting time," or "She's waiting." At 3 a.m. exactly, the reflection smiled again and reached forward, toward the glass. I swear I saw the surface ripple like water. It pressed its hand to the inside of the mirror. I didn't move, couldn't move. Then it began to push. The mirror bulged outward, the glass stretching like skin under pressure. I screamed and threw a blanket over it, but I could still see the outline of a hand pressing from beneath the fabric, twitching, curling, tapping. I left the apartment, just walked into the night like a ghost, not caring where I went. The streets were empty. The silence felt loud. Every window I passed reflected me. Only, it wasn't me anymore. The reflections walked faster than I did, smiled when I didn't. One leaned against a shop window and waved at me. Not a friendly wave, a summons. I ran. I ended up at the cemetery, my mother's grave. The headstone stood exactly where I left it 5 years ago. Simple, weather-worn, with the small bouquet I brought last week, already browned and wilting. But this time, there was something new. A mirror. A square mirror, set upright in the dirt, leaning against the base of the headstone. My face looked back at me, tired and drained. But the thing inside the glass, it looked full of life. Vibrant. Alive in a way I hadn't felt in months. And then it spoke. Not with lips, with sound, like a speaker, playing from nowhere. She's not gone. Not really. I fell to my knees. Tears spilled down my face. I didn't know if it was from grief or horror or both. The mirror spoke again. We can bring her back. You just have to say yes. Behind me I felt the wind shift. And then her voice, soft, sweet, familiar. Honey? I turned. Nothing. But the voice came again. I missed you so much. And it was hers. No static, no distortion. Just my mother's voice, as clear as if she was standing right beside me. I turned back to the mirror. Now she was there. Not me, not the smiling version of me, just her, my mother, in the mirror, crying. I'm stuck, she whispered. Help me come home. I touched the glass. It was warm. The glass pulsed beneath my fingers, alive, almost breathing. Her face looked just like I remembered it. Gentle eyes, soft smile, that little scar above her lip from a childhood accident. But something was off. Too symmetrical. Too still, like a mask that had learned to cry. Please, she whispered, voice cracking. You can bring me back, just one word. Say yes. My breath hitched, my knees dug into the dirt, my heart screamed no, but my soul, battered by years of grief, whimpered maybe. Then a second voice echoed behind her. Don't. It was faint, like it came from far away, like it had to push through layers of static and glass. But I recognized it. It was me, another me, the one in the mirror. But this time, he wasn't smiling. It's not her, he said. It never was. The glass shimmered between the two images, my mother, desperate, weeping, and me, hollow-eyed, terrified. She's using your voice, he warned, like she used mine. I'm your mother, the other voice insisted, stronger now, angrier. Don't listen to him. He left me. You won't. I fell backward, crawling away on my hands. The mirror tipped, falling forward into the grass, but somehow not shattering. It lay there, face up, and I saw my reflection split, fractured into dozens of me's, all arguing, all screaming. Say yes, run, let her out. Don't trust the glass. She's already inside. I covered my ears, screamed into the night, and then silence. Total, except a voice, clear and close, whispered into my ear. You already said yes. I turned slowly. The woods behind me were still. No wind, no rustling, not even the chirp of a cricket. The silence was thick, suffocating. But I felt it. Something was there. Watching. The mirror still lay in the grass, angled just enough to catch a sliver of moonlight. And in its reflection, I saw myself standing perfectly still. Except I wasn't still. My hands were trembling. My chest was rising and falling with panic. But the reflection didn't move. Then slowly, it raised its hand. Not in a wave, not in a warning, but in a beckoning gesture. Come closer. I backed away again, but my foot hit something hard. The tape recorder I'd brought earlier, still in my backpack. I hadn't pressed play, hadn't even used it. But now it clicked. Play. The speaker crackled, and my voice came through. My actual voice, recorded hours ago. If you're hearing this, I think I already lost. I don't know what she is, but she's not our mother. Not really. She wears her face like a costume, and every time we talk back, every time we say her name, It gets stronger. The tape hissed. I think the mirror doesn't show reflections. I think it shows replacements. And then, from the speaker, another voice bled through. You're too late. I looked up just in time to see the reflection in the mirror, blink and smile. Not wide, not unnatural, just softly, calmly, like it had always belonged there. Then it moved. It stepped out. No shattering glass, no burst of light. It was as if the boundary between real and reflection had simply melted. And there it was. Me, but emptier. Like a version of myself that had learned to exist without hope, without fear, without soul. It tilted its head. You invited me. I tried to run, but my legs didn't obey. They felt distant, numb, like they were no longer mine. My double stepped closer. You wore grief like an open door, it said, voice almost kind. And we walked through doors. It reached into my jacket pocket. I didn't stop it, because somehow it was already there, already me. It pulled out the car keys. My car keys. Time to go home. And I was still standing there, but not moving, not blinking, not breathing, just watching. As it walked to the car, as it opened the driver's side, as it got in and turned the engine over, and as the headlights flicked on, I saw my reflection in the windshield, still smiling. I don't remember walking back into the house. I only remember the silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, unnatural quiet that fills a place when something is watching you, unseen. I sat on the edge of the bed for what felt like hours, staring at the floor, listening. For what? I wasn't sure. But then I heard her again. Sweetheart, come here. It was Mum's voice, but it came from the mirror. I stood up slowly, already knowing what I'd see. My own reflection. Only this time, it wasn't delayed or twisted or wrong. It was me, down to the last detail. But the eyes were hers, not my mother's eyes, its eyes. You wanted answers, it said. So did she. So did they all. But they kept listening, and they kept answering. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. I didn't know why I was crying. Maybe it was grief. Maybe I knew, deep down, what I had to do. You don't belong here, I whispered. The mirror didn't respond, but my reflection tilted its head, almost in pity. Then it stepped backward, and suddenly, the mirror was just a mirror again, just glass, just reflection. I waited. Seconds passed, then minutes. Nothing happened. And that's when I realized it wasn't about the voice. It was about attention, acknowledgement, belief. It needed me to believe. It fed on my grief, my need, my questions. So I made a choice. I walked to the bathroom, I pulled a blanket over the mirror, and then I left. I didn't sell a house, I didn't torch it. I just left. Got in the car, drove without GPS, without a plan, without music, just silence. It's been weeks now, maybe longer. I keep the mirrors covered. I don't answer unknown calls. I haven't spoken to anyone about it. Because I know the truth now. It doesn't matter what it is. Demon, entity, echo. It's a parasite. It finds the broken and waits for us to talk back. A listing goes up online. Old farmhouse for rent, quiet, remote, great for solitude, available immediately. A woman clicks on it, recently divorced, still grieving the loss of her mother. She sees the photos, the price. It's too good to pass up. She moves in, unpacks slowly, and on the first night, she notices a mirror in the hallway, covered in a blanket. She pulls it down, and from the other room, a voice calls softly, "Sweetheart, come here."